Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. For context, my 27 male parents had what most people would have described as a picture-perfect marriage, at least in the beginning. My father, a hard-working and kind man, met my mother when they were in college. They fell deeply in love and got married shortly after graduation. My dad was the kind of man who believed in family above all else. He worked tirelessly to provide us with a good life and adored my mom. However, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. When I was around 6 years old, my mom had an affair. The affair was short-lived but devastating. My father discovered it when my mom became pregnant with my younger brother, Nick, 21 male. My dad, being the selfless man he was, chose to forgive her and raise Nick as his own. He never treated Nick differently, never said an unkind word about him, and poured the same love and care into raising him as he did with me. He was committed to keeping our family intact, even if it meant swallowing his pride and enduring the whispers of betrayal that lingered in the background. My paternal grandparents, however, were a different story. While they were polite and respectful towards Nick, they never fully accepted him as their grandson. They adored my father and were heartbroken by my mother's betrayal. They saw Nick as a living reminder of the pain their son endured. Still, they never mistreated him. They included him in family gatherings, celebrated his milestones, and gave him gifts on birthdays and holidays. But the emotional distance was always there. It was subtle, the kind of thing you'd notice if you were paying attention. A slight hesitation before a hug, a lack of personal anecdotes shared with him, or an extra second spent fawning over me. After my father passed away unexpectedly when I was 16, the fragile threads holding our family together began to unravel. His death hit my grandparents hard, and they seemed to redirect some of their grief into resentment toward my mom. They kept in touch with me, but drifted apart from Mom and Nick. They were civil, but distant, clearly unable to forgive my mom for the heartache she caused their son. I think deep down, they saw their relationship with her as irreparably damaged. Family gatherings became smaller, and the invitations to my mom and Nick grew infrequent. My mom's attempts to bridge the gap were met with polite but cold responses. Fast forward to my grandfather's passing. He left a sizable inheritance, the family home, some valuable antiques, and a significant amount of money. In his will, he left everything to me, nothing to Nick, and nothing to my mom. While this decision didn't shock me, I was still taken aback by the explicit reasoning laid out in the will. My grandfather wrote that he loved me as his grandson and wanted to ensure that I was taken care of. As for Nick, he stated that while he respected him as a person, he did not consider him his blood and therefore felt no obligation to include him in the inheritance. This decision reignited old wounds. My mom was furious, and Nick was deeply hurt. I tried to explain that it wasn't my decision, but it fell on deaf ears. My mom accused me of being complicit and claimed I had poisoned my grandfather against her and Nick, which couldn't be further from the truth. I had no control over my grandfather's decisions and had no idea what his will contained until it was read. My grandfather was a man of strong opinions and firm decisions, and I knew better than to think I could have influenced him. The real drama started 2 weeks ago. After much consideration, I decided to sell my grandfather's valuable painting collection to ensure I could maintain the family home. I arranged for a professional appraiser to come with me to the house to assess the value of the paintings. When he arrived, I was stunned to find the house ransacked. The paintings, along with several other valuable items, including my grandfather's old pocket watch, my grandmother's wedding ring, and other irreplaceable heirlooms, were gone. It was as if someone had swept through the house with the intent of taking anything of worth. In a state of panic, I immediately called the police. They started an investigation and managed to access footage from public cameras in the area surrounding the house. What they found left me speechless. Clear footage of my mom and Nick breaking into the house, loading their car with the stolen items, and driving away. I was devastated. These were not just material possessions, they were memories, pieces of my family's history. I couldn't believe my own mother and brother would stoop so low. When the police confronted my mom, she admitted to taking the items, but claimed she was taking what was rightfully hers because it's her family house. She argued that the inheritance was unfair and that my grandparents' decision was a slap in the face to her and Nick. She even went so far as to say that I was a traitor for not standing by her and my brother. Her justification that was she had sacrificed so much for our family, and this was her way of reclaiming what she felt was owed to her. She completely disregarded the fact that breaking into my home and stealing from me was not only illegal, but also deeply hurtful. Since then, my mom has been painting me as the villain to anyone who will listen. She claims that I'm heartless for reporting her and my brother to the police, arguing that they were only taking what rightfully belonged to them. She insists that I'm just like my grandfather, who she says favored me while looking down on Nick. According to her, I'm perpetuating the same pattern of favoritism and exclusion that caused so much pain in the first place. This narrative has gained traction among some extended family and mutual friends, leaving me feeling increasingly isolated. Nick, while less vocal, has made his stance clear by cutting off all contact with me. He's also been posting cryptic messages on social media, alluding to betrayal and disloyalty, further fueling the drama. Mutual friends and extended family members have started contacting me, some of them accusing me of being selfish, while others are simply trying to understand my side of the story. The entire ordeal has left me emotionally drained and questioning my own actions. Despite their betrayal, part of me wonders if I should have handled things differently. Could I have avoided involving the police? Should I have just let them take what they wanted to keep the peace? The guilt gnaws at me, even though I know their actions were wrong, but they are still my family. But here's the thing. I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't ask for my mom to have an affair, for my grandparents to feel the way they did, or for my grandfather to leave his inheritance to me. I tried my best to maintain a relationship with my mom and Nick despite everything. But this betrayal has shattered whatever trust I had left. The sense of entitlement they've shown is staggering, and it's left me questioning whether I've been blind to their true feelings all along. Now, I'm being vilified for calling the police on my own family. People are saying I'm heartless, that I should have let them take the items because family is more important than money. But it's not just about money. It's about the principle, the blatant disrespect, and the sense of entitlement that led them to believe they could rob me and get away with it. The stolen items weren't just things. They were pieces of my family's legacy, and I'll never get some of them back. I'm struggling with guilt and doubt. Did I do the right thing by involving the police? Should I have handled it differently? Reddit, I need your judgment. Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my mom and brother after they robbed my house and not sharing my grandfather's inheritance with my mother's affair child? OP's mom and brother sound incredibly entitled. It's not their stuff just because they feel wronged by OP's grandfather's decisions. Breaking into OP's property and stealing family heirlooms is not how you handle things. Also, the hypocrisy of OP's mom calling OP a traitor while she literally broke the law is staggering. OP did the right thing by involving the police. Family or not, actions have consequences. And now let's hear the community's opinion. This whole situation is heartbreaking, but let's be clear. Your mom and Nick were in the wrong. Your grandfather's will might have been harsh, but it was his decision to make, and blaming you for it is ridiculous. They crossed a line by breaking into your house and stealing. It's especially ironic that your mom is accusing you of favoritism when she's the one creating this divide. Stay strong. You're not the villain here. I feel for Nick, but your mom's behavior is unacceptable. Your father did everything to protect this family after her affair, and now she's turned everything into a drama about inheritance. She's playing the victim while ignoring how deeply hurtful and illegal her actions are. You're absolutely not the a-hole, and I hope the police intervention helps set some boundaries, because it sounds like she's been crossing them for years. I can't believe your mom had the audacity to call you a traitor when she's the one who betrayed your father all those years ago. The fact that she's dragging Nick into this and enabling this toxic behavior is so unfair to everyone involved. You're not at fault for enforcing boundaries and protecting what was legally left to you. They need to take responsibility for their actions instead of blaming you for everything. I have a daughter, Louisa, 10, and my brother Charlie has a daughter, Sophie, 11, same school year. The girls have always been close, even though we moved abroad 3 years ago. So we have had Sophie come to stay with us during school holidays very often, and the girls keep in touch over social media. Some context to this is that my brother and I come from a middle-class family. Both of us attended private schools, regular abroad holidays as children, expensive hobbies, etc. Charlie's wife Rebecca does not come from a similar background, and this has caused some awkward moments in the past. Nothing malicious, just faux pas. Charlie also chose a career path which has meant that he has not been able to maintain the standard of living we grew up with, or provide that for Sophie. This has been a point of contention between him and his parents. Next September, Louisa will be going to boarding school. Before I get bashed in the comments, this was entirely her idea, not something we wanted for her, but it is where most of her friends from her junior school will be going, and they do not allow day pupils. The school is 1 hour from where we live, and Louisa will be able to come home on weekends. I gathered that Louisa and Sophie spoke about the idea of going to school together and got very excited. I told Louisa this is something that Charlie and Rebecca would have to decide, and then spoke to Charlie about it. I said that if it was something he wanted for Sophie, me and my husband could pay for Sophie to go and be her point of contact during term time. Charlie was almost in tears thanking me and said this is something he and Rebecca could only dream of for Sophie. Over the next couple of days, I spoke to our parents about this, as when I called I found out he had already mentioned it, and they were overjoyed. Yesterday, I got a series of vitriolic messages from Rebecca, accusing me of trying to steal and adopt her daughter. She accused me and our whole family of using money to manipulate her daughter into hating her. She called me every name under the sun and said that I was trying to push her out of being a mother to Sophie. None of this made any sense to me. I love Sophie dearly, but I'd never try to be her mother, and this idea was Sophie and Louisa's. I was very hurt by the things she implied about me and my family and didn't even reply to her, but I did forward the messages to Charlie. I didn't think I had any part to play in Rebecca's outburst, but I spoke to my husband about this, and he said he sees how Rebecca could be upset, because when Sophie is around, it's obvious how much she looks up to me and wishes she had what Louisa does. He also said that while he loves that my family wants the best for all of us, he could see how it could feel a bit oppressive if you couldn't meet the standard. My husband never says things like this, so since that conversation, I've been wondering, am I the a-hole? Edit. I'm getting a lot of questions about the point of contact thing, so I thought I would clarify. Because the school is in the country I live in, and not where Charlie and Rebecca live, I offered to be the emergency contact in case Sophie was ill or needed picking up from school immediately, etc. Also, in case she wanted to come home with Louisa at weekends and not be at school, since she won't be able to fly home every weekend. I said it to ease their minds that at least she would have someone in the vicinity at short notice. Not that I would be responsible for her academic progress or anything like that. Edit 2. Middle class. I really didn't think it was going to be as big as it is, but in the UK, or at least where I'm from in the UK, everyone is middle class, unless you belong to the upper social echelons, which you can only enter by birth or by marriage. If you're not nobility, you're middle class. Some people say upper middle class, which perhaps I should have, but it seemed like a pointless distinction. I'm not trying to display that we had a privileged upbringing. It's just in my experience, upper class is not purely about money. You're not the a-hole. A simple, no thank you. We want our middle school-age daughter to attend school in our own country so we can still see her every day, would have been a sufficient answer. But there's probably something much deeper here than this offer for Rebecca to react so angrily. Not the a-hole. You made an extremely kind offer. Your brother should have consulted his wife in the matter, though. Your brother not communicating with his wife is not your fault. OP, you are not the a-hole. You weren't to know the reaction from your brother's wife. It was perfectly reasonable to make the offer to your sibling and then allow him and his spouse to make a decision. Her reaction is unhinged. All she had to say was, no thank you, if she was uncomfortable with the idea. You made a generous offer for the benefit of your niece and should not in any way feel bad about that. If the girl's mother cannot see the advantages that a private education could bring her daughter, then she is short-sighted and selfish. You're under no obligation, but I would let your brother know the offer remains on the table if she gets her head out of her butt. I, 36 female, have a daughter, Sarah, 10 female, with my husband, 37 male. My husband has a sister, Clara. Clara's father, not my husband's father, is a well-off guy, and Clara married into more money than most people will ever see. She has also taken a particular liking to my daughter, because her daughter, Ellie, and mine are very close and the same age. She has spoiled Sarah with trips, took her to Disney with her family on summer holidays, etc., and extravagant gifts, a bunch of which I felt uncomfortable accepting, but I've adopted a when in Rome attitude to Clara. I'll be honest, seeing Sarah look up to Clara as much as she does has hurt over the years. When she was younger, she'd frequently blurt out how she wished Clara was her mom and Ellie was her sister in that way kids do. But I've always put it to one side because Sarah was experiencing things she never would have without Clara's generosity. Next year, both girls will go to high school. In our country, it's from 11 plus. While Clara was visiting our country, she mentioned that Ellie would be attending a prestigious boarding school where they live. Clara said she never wanted to send Ellie to boarding school, but the primary school she goes to is basically a feeder school, and all her friends would be going, and Ellie begged to go, as they have amazing facilities and opportunities. We looked at the website, and it's truly a place for 1% of 1%, a place any parent would dream to educate their child. We said we were really hoping Sarah would get into the grammar school, but if not, she would have to go to the local school near us. My in-laws chimed in, and before I knew it, Clara said we should tour where they're going to be sending Ellie. She would happily pay for the tuition, and as they live close by, Ellie would be coming home as many weekends as she wanted, and Sarah could too. My husband was overwhelmed by the generosity and ecstatic at the idea of Sarah having such a start in life. But I just wanted to cry at the thought of my daughter going abroad to school, only to be essentially adopted by Clara. We said we'd think about it, but as soon as we got in the car, my husband mentioned it to Sarah, and it's all she can talk about now. She and Ellie are already excited about the prospect. I told my husband about my concerns, and he accused me of being jealous of Clara and even of Sarah, saying what kind of mother would stop her child taking an opportunity that will likely set her up for life, just because she doesn't want her to get too attached to other family members. I just think I didn't have a child just to send her away, and I don't think I'm wrong in thinking there's things I could give her as a mother that Clara can't, besides an expensive education. I think Sarah will be devastated if I say no, but this isn't what I want for my family. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but your husband is definitely the a-hole for mentioning it to Sarah before discussing it with you. You sound like you are more focused on your own jealousy of your sister-in-law than you are on your daughter. Yes, the a-hole. You would be the a-hole if you made the decision based on what you want. As a parent, it's your job to look at this situation and consider what's right for your daughter. Whether that means going or staying, I can't say, because the only things you have really talked about is how you feel. You need to sit down, research the options, make an honest list of the pros and cons, and then decide what's in her best interest. Not the a-hole, but you need to stop blaming your sister-in-law and stop being jealous of her riches. It was your husband who told your daughter about it without consulting you. That is the problem. Your husband. My daughter Izzy will be having her school prom in the summer. She really wanted to get her dress early. We made a deal with her that if she gets decent exam results after her previous year, we will buy her the dress of her choice, whatever the cost. She has always been a bright kid, so it wasn't surprising that her results were excellent. She topped the year in every subject, bar 2, and even those her grades were decent. She chose a dress that was very expensive, but my wife and I kept our agreement and bought it for her. She has her heart set on being prom queen. It was also Izzy's birthday last weekend, and she wanted to have a house party for her 16th, which we didn't have a problem with, and she convinced us to leave the house while she had it. Wife and I stayed at in-laws, who don't live too far away. I got a call around 4 a.m. It was the police, and they had turned up to the house due to the noise. We rushed over there. Izzy was extremely drunk and was throwing up. Apparently, she had invited many more people than she had claimed, though most had fled when police arrived. There was alcohol and D all around the house. Our bedroom was ruined. It was clear that kids had attempted to use it for their own fun. We were also told the next morning that drunk Izzy had sworn at the elderly neighbors while drunk after they told her to keep the noise down. Thankfully, nothing valuable was taken, but windows were broken, as was a door lock, and someone had tried to break into the garden shed. Once she had woken up and sobered up, Izzy showed no regrets whatsoever. In fact, she found the whole thing hilarious. There was damage done to the house, and we asked her to refund some of it from the substantial amount we gave her in pocket money. She swore at us and laughed in our faces. In response, I said okay, but sold her prom dress online. It actually cost even more than the amount of damage done to the house, which was no small amount of money. The dress was gone today, and when Izzy found out, she was very upset, sobbing and screaming and calling us bad parents and saying she hates us. All the usual teen stuff. She packed a bag and went to stay with her friend's parents. Friend's mom called and said how it was awful of us to do that to punish her, and that we were completely unfair to go back on the deal. Sorry, but her party caused a lot of damage to our home, and she had no remorse and refused to help repay the damages. I don't think we did anything wrong in using that money for a better cause. You let a 16-year-old have an unsupervised party, never checked in during the event, and the only question you have is if you are the a-hole for selling the prom dress? No, you are not wrong for imposing consequences for her bad choices, but I won't go as far as saying not the a-hole, because you also aren't taking any responsibility for your lack of parenting that allowed it to happen so easily. Yes, the a-hole. So, this is a tough one, and I'm sure I'm going to be hated for my judgment, but I'm going to say everyone sucks here. The dress had nothing to do with the party. Sure, it helped you pay for the damages, but it was a reward for good grades, which she made. You said yourself that she gets plenty of pocket money, so you could have grounded her and taken away all of the pocket money until the damages were paid off, which I'm guessing would have not been very long. If it cost less than the prom dress, I'm not sure how expensive the dress was, or the damages, and it sucks that she did this, but also you are the parents here. You made the choice to not stay home for a teenager party. Did you set down rules ahead of time? Did you let her know that if things got out of hand, there would be consequences? If not, then that's on you. I'm sorry your house suffered, but you retaliated in a manner that was confusing and childish, even to a teenager. Of course she is upset. Not the a-hole. This is a straightforward one. I don't know why you even let her go stay at a friend's house, particularly one whose mother clearly doesn't get it. For my senior prom, I bought a gorgeous teal ball gown, on sale for 1/3 of its original price, and between my mom and I, jeweled it up, added lace, the works. The total cost I spent on the dress and its alterations almost met the dress's original price. I love that dress and the memories of picking out jewels and other items with my mom and working on it together. Since my senior prom, I have only ever worn the dress 2 more times for major events. With 2020 prom season around the corner, more and more dresses are popping up at department stores, and some of the ones I've seen are really pretty. A few days ago, my aunt called me and asked if my cousin could borrow the dress for prom in late April, and I said no, I'm sorry. This didn't fly with my aunt, who immediately said I graduated high school over half a decade ago. Edit, almost 7 years ago, and have to let her borrow it. I explained to her the sentimental value of the dress, then pointed out that my cousin is almost a foot shorter than me and roughly 4 sizes smaller, and thus alterations would need to be made. If alterations of any sort are made to fit my cousin, it's no longer borrowing in my opinion. At that point, I might as well give it to her. I want to be able to wear it again if another big event happens, and the possibility to take a dress out when taken in is 0 because of your size difference. Anyway, this leads her to calling my mom to have her convince me to let my cousin borrow the dress, which my mom also said no, because my uncle makes good money and they should be able to get my cousin a really nice, unique dress if she so desires. Then my aunt offered to buy it for under $80, and my mom laughed before hanging up on her. Now there's divide among other family members, and after some of them made passive-aggressive Facebook posts or straight-up call-out posts, I blocked most of them. My high school prom dress isn't even in the state I currently live in, and is in a climate-controlled storage unit owned by my dad and stepmom. Before anyone asks, my cousin is not involved. By her choice, I'm not sure. She won't respond to any messages I send her on a few social medias we both have, and any comments I make on a new post are deleted. Am I the a-hole? Edit. To the people asking, I wore the dress to 2 military balls I was invited to. I didn't feel the need to buy new dresses when I have one that fits both occasions. Not the a-hole. Your aunt was looking for a cheap deal at your expense, and when she didn't get what she wanted, incited a crusade on social media. Your property is your property, and under no circumstances, family or not, should you have to lend it out if you don't want to. And that's not even including that the dress would be rendered unusable to you in doing so. Not the a-hole. It's none of your aunt's or anyone else in your family's business why you chose not to lend out something that belongs to you, much less something you actually put your own money and effort into. The dress is yours. You wear it. It's yours to decide what to do with. Even if you'd worn it once and decided to keep it for dust rags or hamster bedding, it's still yours. You have no obligation to ruin something you intend to continue using for the convenience of someone else. Not the a-hole. You are under no obligation to lend out items to anyone at any time. It doesn't even matter the size difference. If you said no, the answer is no.